Thank you. Please be seated. Thank you, members of the Amalgam Brass Quintet. We appreciate it. Welcome to Carmichael Hall and the UNC Gillings School of Global Public Health's 78th commencement. We're so glad that you're here today. We welcome Kamara Jones, our commencement speaker, James Laludis, Associate Dean for Honors Carolina and father of graduate Kirsten, Todd Jones, who's chair of our Alumni Association Advisory Board, Joan Gillings, our generous benefactor and advocate for students, our platform party, beloved members of our faculty and staff, our fabulous graduates, and each of you here to celebrate them. This is a joyous day. Today we celebrate our 577 graduating students, about 375 today, and we also celebrate you, their sons, daughters, brothers and sisters, husbands and wives, partners, parents, aunts and uncles, grandparents and godparents, and other family members and friends. Public health training, like public health practice, is not a solitary affair. Soon, our graduates will cross the stage to receive their degrees, a rite of passage that formalizes not only completion of programs and degrees, but their personal journeys from the people they were to the people they have become. So I'd like to give a couple of shout outs, one for first generation students, for all those, thank you, who are here serving in the military and the public health service, and now I'd like to ask the mothers to please stand up so that we can recognize you. And we also remember the mothers who are no longer with us. Thank you. Okay, and one more. How about a hand for the faculty and staff who helped you all get here today? Thank you. Graduates, this is your day, and we are so proud of you. You've worked hard, you've proven yourselves by passing exams, writing papers, journal articles, theses, and dissertations, completing untold numbers of group projects, and winning competitions and other recognition. You've shown your intelligence, innovation, passion, persistence, leadership, humility, and your heart. Many of you have worked tirelessly on events like the Minority Health Conference and Gillings X. You made communities and organizations stronger. You've received many, many awards, and they're in the commencement brochure, but I want to point out one. We are so proud that our graduate students received 7 of 22 Impact and Horizon Awards from the Graduate School. These awards recognize the benefit of North Carolina, of our students to North Carolina, and I think it says a lot about our students. Our world is interconnected, thank you all, is interconnected in a way that will help to shape who you are and what you do. While we are more committed than ever to North Carolinians, we also are dedicated global citizens. We must be both local and global in our mindsets and actions. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our wonderful, highly effective Senior Associate Dean for Academic and Student Affairs and Professor of Health Behavior, Laura Linan. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, Dean Reimer. The Gillings School is fortunate to have many amazing students who we will be celebrating with today, as well as dedicated, outstanding faculty and staff members, as we can see with all the work that's gone into planning for today alone. Every year at commencement, we take a moment to acknowledge the winners of some of the school's most prestigious teaching, mentorship, practice, and service awards. I can assure you that the selection committee members for these awards were truly inspired as we reviewed the nominations that were submitted. To all those who received nominations, and to those who aspire to be the best they can be in our community, in the classroom, and in the many type of mentoring relationships undertaken between students and faculty, thank you for all that you do to make Gillings a very special place. Now let's focus on the first of 3 awards, the Harriet Hilton Barr Distinguished Alumni Award. Established in 1975 by the school's Alumni Association, this award recognizes achievements of alumni and their contributions to public health. The award is named after the late Harriet Hilton Barr, who dedicated 28 years of service to the Gillings School as an associate professor of health behavior and the first director of alumni affairs. The 2018 winner of the Harriet Hilton Barr Distinguished Alumni Award is Dr. Carmen Samuel Hodge, assistant professor from the Nutrition Department. Dr. Samuel Hodge, Dr. Samuel Hodge received her master's and doctoral degrees from the Department of Nutrition at UNC and joined the Gillings School of Faculty in 2003. Dr. Samuel Hodge is truly an innovative applied researcher who works collaboratively with local public health professionals here in North Carolina and has also served as a national advisor with the Health Disparities Committee of the American Diabetes Association. Her main research has focused on health disparities and chronic disease prevention among African American women. Her research is designed to address challenging public health problems among high-risk, underserved population that leads to actionable public health improvements. One of her nominators wrote, "She has a well-deserved reputation for excellent leadership of research teams conducting community-based nutrition interventions." And another wrote, "I have seen her passion for and commitment to public health, both of which are broadly manifest in her research efforts, her writing, her speaking, her education, and her service to the department, the university, and the community, both locally and on a national scale." Given her significant achievements and enthusiastic nominations, it is clear to see why she is the 2018 Harriet Hilton Barr Distinguished Alumni Award recipient. Please join me in congratulating Dr. Carmen Samuel Hodge. Our next award, the Bernard Greenberg Alumni Endowment Award, was established in 1986 by the school's Alumni Association in honor of Dr. Bernard Greenberg, who founded and chaired the Department of Biostatistics and also served as the Dean of the School of Public Health. This award is presented to an outstanding full-time Gillings School faculty member for excellence in the areas of teaching, research, and service. This year, I am very pleased to present the 2018 Bernard Greenberg Alumni Endowment Award to Amanda Holliday, Assistant Professor in Nutrition. Ms. Holliday received her master's degree from Rush University Medical Center in Chicago and joined the faculty here at Gillings in 2007. She served as president of the Durham-Chapel Hill Dietetic Association and president of the North Carolina Dietetic Association. She is an active committee member for the National Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics as well. She teaches and mentors primarily bachelor's and master's students who want to become registered dietitians. She has single-handedly won the Departmental Innovation Teaching Award 4 times, which is a student-nominated award. She is also preceptor for master's students completing the hospital-based work experiences and long-term care experience with staff dietitians in area hospitals. One Gillings alumna who nominated her wrote, "Her work has resulted in the only sustained interprofessional education event on campus where almost 300 students from 12 health disciplines learn how to work in teams, how to think about the population's health, and how all disciplines can work together." Another distinguished nominator wrote, "Amanda Holliday exemplifies the kind of thought leader and accomplished teacher and practitioner in the field of public health deserving of this recognition." Please join me in congratulating Ms. Amanda Holliday on receiving the 2018 Greenberg Alumni Award. Our third prestigious award, the John E. Larsch Award for Mentorship, was established in 1997 and honors Dr. Larsch, a devoted faculty member in the school's Department of Health Behavior. This award recognizes a faculty member who best exemplifies a lifetime career of mentorship and commitment to students. I am delighted to present the 2018 Johnny Larsch Jr. Award for Mentorship to Mr. Jeffrey Sims, Assistant Professor in the Department of Health Policy and Management. Dr. Sims received a Master of Science in Public Health at UNC and joined the Gillings faculty in 2008. His primary role is to find rewarding, permanent jobs for residential graduate students in the Health Policy and Management Department, and he oversees student services, career services, and alumni relations in the department. As a result, he has served as primary contact for more than 4,000 HPM alumni. When we reviewed nominations for this year's award, committee members were amazed to see that 104 Health Policy and Management faculty and staff members, students and alumni, signed letters of recommendation for him to win this award. One letter read, "Jeffrey takes his time to get to know all the incoming students, making it possible to provide guidance tailored to each student's personality, experience, and individual aspirations." Another nominee wrote, "Jeffrey directly influenced our admissions criteria, resulting in a better assessment of minority and other students who may not always have a typical applicant profile. His efforts increased the number of minority applicants and accepted students, and he has truly helped to make Gillings a more welcoming environment for all." It is obvious to see why he was chosen to receive this award. Please join me in congratulating Jeffrey Sims, who is the 2018 Larsch Award for Membership. Now, I am delighted to introduce to you the Gillings School Student Government Co-President, Ms. Catherine Gora Combs. Catherine is an extremely positive individual who continues our long history and tradition of outstanding student service and leadership in public health. A highly impressive undergraduate student who is a rising senior, Catherine is pursuing a double major in biostatistics here at Gillings and in music. In addition to serving as student government co-president, she is also the president-elect of the Alpha of North Carolina chapter of Phi Beta Kappa. In the Department of Music, she is principal flute, both of the UNC Symphony Orchestra and the UNC Wind Ensemble, and is director of the UNC's Music Ambassador Program. After graduation in May 2019, she hopes to pursue a graduate degree in epidemiology, and we are thrilled she will continue her training in public health. Please join me in welcoming to the podium Catherine, your Gillings School Student Government Co-President.
Thank you so much, Dean Linan. For over 75 years, Gillings students have made huge impacts, not only on UNC's campus, but in North Carolina, this country, and abroad. Gillings students have been recipients of distinguished service, research, and academic awards. They've earned numerous grants, fellowships, scholarships, and won national case and poster competitions. You will find student honors and awards listed on pages 16 to 19 in your commencement program. In the 2017-2018 academic year, Gillings students organized hunger lunches, led fundraisers and documentary screenings, hosted numerous networking events with alumni, participated in relief efforts in our community and around the world, and were featured on Students Who Rocked Public Health 2017 and Forbes 30 Under 30. Gillings students are change agents, visionaries, researchers, entrepreneurs, and activists, and our graduates are no exception. Please join me in a round of applause for the extraordinary achievements of our graduates. At this time, I would like to recognize the two undergraduate highest GPA recipients. Holly Osgun is a health policy and management major with a chemistry and Spanish for the professions double minor. Brandon Friedman is a health policy and management and biology double major with a chemistry minor. Both are members of Honors Carolina. These students were presented with an Academic Excellence Medal at a special dinner last night. Please stand to be recognized for your achievements.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Adante Hart, and it has been an honor serving as your student government co-president alongside Catherine this year. It is also my honor to stand before you today introducing our 2018 commencement speaker. But before I do so, I would like to congratulate the UNC Gillings School of Global Health, class of 2018. Y'all did it. I would also like to acknowledge the parents, partners, mentors, and friends of our graduates that are here today. Thank you for your support, your love, your prayers, your understanding, and your simply being present during the long journey to this occasion. And a special shout out to all the mothers in attendance. Quite frankly, we would not be here if it weren't for you all, so thank you, and happy early Mother's Day. Now about our distinguished commencement speaker. Kamara Phyllis Jones, MD, MPH, PhD, is a past president of the American Public Health Association and a senior fellow of the Satcher Health Leadership Institute and the Cardiovascular Research Institute at the Morehouse School of Medicine. Dr. Jones is a family physician and an epidemiologist whose work focuses on naming, measuring, and addressing the impacts of racism on the health and well-being of the nation. She seeks to broaden the national health debate to include not only universal access to high-quality health care, but also attention to the social determinants of health, including poverty, and the social determinants of equity, including racism. Dr. Jones is a public health leader valued for her creativity and intellectual agility. As a methodologist, she has developed new methods for comparing full distributions of data rather than simply comparing means or proportions in order to investigate population-level risk factors and propose population-level interventions. As a social epidemiologist, her work on race-associated differences in health outcomes goes beyond simply documenting those differences to vigorously investigating the structural causes of these differences. As a teacher, her allegories on race and racism illuminate topics that are otherwise difficult for many Americans to understand or discuss. She aims through her work to catalyze a national conversation on racism that will mobilize and engage all Americans in a national campaign against racism. Dr. Jones was an assistant professor at the Harvard School of Public Health before being recruited to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, where she served as a medical officer and research director on social determinants of health and equity. Highly valued as a mentor and teacher, she is currently an adjunct professor at the Rollins School of Public Health at Emory University and an adjunct associate professor at the Morehouse School of Medicine. She is also actively sought as a contributor to national efforts to define health equity, including her role as the project advisor and on-screen expert for the groundbreaking film series, Unnatural Causes: Is Inequality Making Us Sick? She recently co-chaired the consensus panel on racism in health, creating a canon for discourse and action convened by the W. Montague Club, National Medical Association Health Institute. Her many awards include the David Satcher Award, Hildreth A. Poindexter Distinguished Service Award, John Snow Award, Paul Cornely Award, and Woman in Medicine Award, among many others. Dr. Jones earned her BA in molecular biology from Wellesley College, her MD from the Stanford University School of Medicine, and both her Master of Public Health and her PhD in epidemiology from the Johns Hopkins School of Hygiene and Public Health. She also completed residency training in general preventative medicine at Johns Hopkins and in family practice at the residency program in social medicine at Montefiore Medical Center. Finally, Dr. Jones was also our guest in 2017, serving as a panelist for the 23rd Annual National Health Equity Research webcast entitled The Courage to Lead: Scholar Activism and Health Equity in Turbulent Times. She has also delivered keynote addresses for the UNC Minority Health Conference and MHC Summer Lectures. We are glad to have her back at Carolina to deliver our 2018 commencement address. And so, please join me in giving a warm Carolina welcome to our 2018 commencement speaker, Dr. Kamara P. Jones.
Congratulations to all the graduates and the families and friends. This is a wonderful festival, and I'm so honored to be part of this for you. I want to share with you some of my work so that I can spark conversations this evening when you get back and everything's over, so with your family members and students alike. And then I want to give you, students and all within hearing, a charge. So as you heard, I was president of the American Public Health Association 2 years ago, actually, and during my term, my presidential initiative was to actually launch a national campaign against racism that would at least engage our association, but as many other communities and associations that wanted to join us in 3 tasks: to name racism, to ask how is racism operating here, and then to organize and strategize to act. And why would I take that as my presidential initiative? It's because although many people in this country would say, yes, yes, racism did exist, it's an unfortunate chapter in our nation's history, many people in this country are now in denial that racism continues to exist and have profound negative impacts on the health and well-being of the whole nation. So I'm going to share with you 2 of my stories, 2 of my allegories that I used when I was traveling across this country and actually outside of the country. The first story actually happened when I was a student. I was a medical student, and I was very studiously studying with some friends in my apartment, and it got late, we got hungry, and I had no food in the apartment. This story is going to be about a little insight about racism. So here we are, hungry, no food in my apartment. Well, no problem, we're going to walk into town. So we walk into town, and we find a restaurant, and we walk in, and we sit down. The menus are presented, we order our food, the food is served, here we are eating. Not a very remarkable or insightful story yet. But as I sat there with my friends in the restaurant eating, I looked across the room and I noticed a sign, and that sign was a startling revelation to me about racism. So now you're like, oh, Dr. Jones, what did the sign say? Well, let me tell you what the sign said. The sign said, open. So now I know I've lost most of you. So let me recap. Here we are, sitting in a restaurant eating. I look up and I see a sign, and it says open, and if I hadn't thought anything more about it, I would have assumed that other hungry people would be able to walk in, sit down, order their food, and eat. But because I knew something about the 2-sided nature of those signs, I recognized that now, indeed, because of the hour, the restaurant was closed, and that other hungry people just a few feet away from me, but on the other side of the sign, would not be able to walk in, sit down, order their food, and eat. And that's when I understood how racism structures open-closed signs in our society, that racism structures a dual reality. And for those who are sitting inside the restaurant at the table of opportunity eating, and they look up and they see a sign that says open, they don't even recognize that there's a 2-sided sign going on, because it's difficult for any of us to recognize a system of inequity that privileges us. It is difficult for men to recognize male privilege and sexism. It is difficult for white Americans to recognize white privilege and racism. It is difficult for all Americans to recognize our American privilege in the global context, except we got a little taste of that with Ebola, did we not? But for those on the outside, for those on the other side of the sign, they're very well aware that there's a 2-sided sign going on because it proclaims closed to them, but they can look through the window and see people inside eating. So back inside the restaurant, to those who ask, is there really a 2-sided sign? Does racism really exist? I say, I know it's hard for you to know when you only see open. In fact, that's part of your privilege, not to have to know. But once you do know, you can choose to act. So it's not a scary thing to name racism, it's an empowering thing. It doesn't even compel you to act, but it does equip you to act so that if you care about those on the other side of the sign, which is an if, but if you do, you could even talk to the restaurant owner, who is, after all, inside with you. And you could say, restaurant owner, there are hungry people outside. Why don't you open the restaurant again and let them in? You will make more money, and oh, the conversations we could have. Or maybe what you'll do is pass food through the door or break the glass or try to tear down that sign, but at least what you won't be doing is sitting back saying, wonder why those people don't just come on in and sit down and eat. Because you'll understand something about the two-sided nature of that sign. So I give you that story, first of all, as sort of preparation that, yes, racism could exist even though your life experience has not brought that to the fore. I mean, I've actually had a 3-hour conversation with community folks in Flint, Michigan once. I told the story, and then I asked the question, how could people born inside the restaurant know something about the two-sided nature of that sign? And in fact, there are many ways that we could know. I don't have 3 hours today, so we're not going to go there. But let me shift now, because I said that that was an insight for me about racism. Let me define racism for you, because when I say the word, I'm clear that I'm talking about a system. I'm not talking about an individual character flaw or a personal moral failing or even a psychiatric illness, as some people have suggested. I'm talking about a system of power. And a system of doing what? It's a system of both structuring opportunity and of assigning value. And on what basis is the opportunity structured, and on what basis is the value assigned? It's based on the social interpretation of how we look, which is what we call race in this country. The impacts of this system include that it unfairly disadvantages some individuals and communities, and when we think or talk about racism at all in this country, that's usually where we go. But of course, we need to recognize that every unfair disadvantage has its reciprocal unfair advantage, so the system is also unfairly advantaging other individuals and communities. That's the whole issue of unearned white privilege that we hardly ever talk about in this country. And the reason we hardly ever talk about it is that it makes some people, especially some white people, uncomfortable. And I realize I may have made some people in this arena uncomfortable today. I'm not trying to make anybody uncomfortable, but if I did, I ask you to either shrug it off or lean into it or whatever, because our kind of national commitment to white comfort has kept us from understanding truth and history and equity for too long. So I have abandoned my commitment to white comfort. Ooh, you guys are like, where did they get this woman? Okay, but but I have to say there's a third impact of racism. There's the unfair disadvantage, the reciprocal unfair advantage. But the third impact is sometimes not really clearly seen by many of us, and that's how racism saps the strength of our whole society through the waste of human resources. Many examples of that, how we're not vigorously investing in the full, excellent public education of all of our children because the blinders of racism have made some people feel like there's no genius in the barrios or the ghettos or on the reservations. We can get along very well, thank you, without those kids. But of course, there's genius in all of our communities, and there are many, many graduates in here today who are testimony to the fact that when you invest in that genius, we could be doing so much better as a nation or even as a world. I want to say one more thing before I go into my second story, which is that many people, you know, I talked about unfair disadvantage and its reciprocal unfair advantage. There are many people in this country who think that there is disadvantaged and normal. Am I right? Disadvantaged and normal. And the reason that many people think that is because we as a nation are ahistorical, and folks do not understand that their so-called normal is built up on a whole mountain of unfair advantage. I'm going to shift gears, though, because I only have a few more minutes, to tell you a second story. I call it my Gardener's Tale allegory. It's about 3 levels of racism, but before I tell you the Gardener's Tale, I need to just tell you a little bit about those levels of racism, because when I try to figure out, I'm a physician, I'm an epidemiologist, you know, my area is really in health, and when I try to figure out how this system, racism, can be impacting health? How could it turn into twice as many black babies dying before their first birthday compared to white babies? How could it turn into differences in asthma prevalence or obesity prevalence or differences in cancer mortality rates and the like? I find it useful to think about institutionalized racism, personally mediated racism, and internalized racism. I'm going to give you very quick definitions so you'll understand my story. Institutionalized racism is the system, if you will. It's the constellation of structures, policies, practices, norms, and values which, taken together, result in differential access to the goods, services, and opportunities of society by race. This is the kind of racism that does not require an identifiable perpetrator because it's been institutionalized in our laws and customs and background norms. We see it as inherited disadvantage or its reciprocal inherited advantage. We see it in terms of material conditions like differential access by race to quality housing or excellent educational opportunities, a clean environment. We see it in terms of access to power differentially by race, including access to information, could be health information or information about our own histories, or differential access to power in government or in media and the like. So, the main things you need to know about institutionalized racism is, well, there's several. So one, it can be through acts of doing as well as acts of not doing, acts of commission as well as acts of omission, and very often institutionalized racism shows up as inaction, lack of action in the face of need, and also that it doesn't just so happen in this country that people of color in the US are overrepresented in poverty while white people in the US are overrepresented in wealth. That happens because of initial historical injustices that are perpetuated by present-day contemporary structural factors which are part and parcel of institutionalized racism. The second level of racism, personally mediated racism, I define as differential assumptions about the abilities, motives, and intents of others by race, and then differential actions based on those assumptions. That's what most people think of when they hear the word racism. Somebody did something to somebody, right? The differential idea, the prejudice, and the different action, the discrimination. So that can show up as police brutality, or waiter indifference, or shopkeeper vigilance, or teacher devaluation, or physician disrespect. Lots of different ways that can show up. That can be through acts of doing as well as not doing, and it also can be unintentional as well as intentional. The third level of racism, internalized racism, I'm going to define today from the point of view of members of the stigmatized races as acceptance by members of stigmatized races of negative messages about our own abilities and intrinsic worth. So it turns into self-devaluation, feeling maybe I'm really not as good as, maybe I shouldn't try to go to the Gilling School of Global Public Health. Right? Maybe I shouldn't try for that job or whatever. It turns into resignation, helplessness, hopelessness, turns into a lot of self-destructive health behaviors. And for people of color, it sometimes shows up as what we call the white man's ice is colder syndrome. Many of you may not have ever heard of that, but that's a saying from my parents' generation, and what it meant for people of color in their time, it still means for many of us today. What it means is that, say I'm black and I need a lawyer, I might actually look for a white lawyer over a black lawyer. Or if I were sick, I might prefer a white doctor over a black doctor. In fact, if my lemonade were warm, I might go way down the street to get the white man's ice over the black man's ice, deeply believing that the white man's ice is colder, deeply internalizing the myth of white superiority. So the story, to illustrate the relationship between these three levels of racism and what we should do about it, is based on something that I saw with my own real eyes on my porch at my house in Baltimore. Can't tell you what I saw, but it was an image about the importance of the soil, the importance of the environment. We're going to jump now to a story about a gardener who has two flower boxes, one which she knows to have rich, fertile soil, and one which she knows to have poor, rocky soil. And she has seed for the same kind of flowers, except some of the seed is going to produce pink blossoms, and some of the seed is going to produce red blossoms, and the gardener prefers red over pink. So what does she do? She takes the red seed, puts it in the rich, fertile soil, pink seed in the poor, rocky soil. 3 weeks later, she saw what I actually saw in my own garden. 3 weeks later, in that rich, fertile soil, all of the red seeds sprout. The strong red seed grows very tall and vigorous, and even the weak red seed makes it halfway up. But in that poor, rocky soil, the weak pink seed just dies. And here comes a strong pink seed just struggling to make it to a middling height. And then in those 2 flower boxes, those flowers go to seed. And the next year, same thing happens. And then those flowers go to seed. And year after year after year after year, the same thing happens. Until finally, about 10 years later, the gardener's looking at her flower boxes and she says, you know, I was right to prefer red over pink. So I'm going to interrupt the story there to say the first part of this story is how institutionalized racism works, where you had the initial historical injustices or the separation of the seed into the 2 types of soil, you had contemporary structural factors of the flower boxes keeping the soil separate, and then through inaction in the face of need, perpetuation of the inequity. But let's pick the story back up to say, where is personally mediated racism in the garden? Well, gardener's looking at the red flowers, loving red, and she looks over the pink flowers and she says, those pink flowers sure are scrawny and scraggly, so she plucks off the pink blossoms before they can even go to seed. Or maybe she notices that a pink seed has blown into the rich, fertile soil, so she plucks it out before it can establish itself, which is some of the anti-affirmative action stuff that goes on. And where would internalized racism be in the garden? Well, the red flowers are just enjoying being red, living their lives, many of them not understanding or acknowledging that they're benefiting from enriched soil. Pink flowers are looking over at red, thinking red is mighty fine, and wishing with all their hearts that they too could be red. And here come the bees. And the bees are just minding their own business, collecting nectar, but pollinating at the same time. So here comes a bee bzz, into one of the pink flowers, and bzz, to another pink flower, and bzz, to this pink flower, and this flower's like, get away from me, bee. Do not bring me any of that pink pollen. I prefer the red, because the pink flower has internalized that red is better than pink. So now the question arises, what do we do to set things right in this garden? Well, we could start by addressing the internalized racism. We can go over to the pink flowers and say, pink is beautiful, power to the pink. And that is an important intervention. But if that's all we do, it's not going to change the situation in which the pink flowers find themselves. So you say, okay, well, let's address the personally mediated racism. Let's go have a conversation with the gardener. Or better yet, let's have a workplace multicultural workshop for the gardener. It's all good, right? So we have our workshop, right? And in the workshop, we say, dear gardener, would you please stop plucking those pink flowers? And maybe she will, and maybe she won't. But even if she does, it's still not going to change the situation in which they find themselves. If we really want to set things right in this garden, we need to address the institutionalized racism, which means we have to either break down the boxes and mix up the soil, or if you want to keep separate boxes, that's all right too, although it makes it easier for the gardener to keep segregating resources going forward. But if you keep separate boxes, what it means is that you have to enrich that poor rocky soil until it is as rich as the rich fertile soil. And when you do, the pink flowers will flourish. They'll be looking beautiful and grand and glorious, so that in that intervention, you'll have also addressed the internalized racism. Pink won't be looking over at red, wanting to be red or thinking red is better. And in that intervention, you may also address the personally mediated racism. The original gardener may have to go to her grave preferring red over pink, but her children who grow up seeing the flowers equally beautiful will be less likely to have that kind of attitude. So this story has been to illustrate these 3 levels and to say we must at least address the institutionalized racism. Good to address all levels, but at least the institutionalized, and when you address all levels, the other levels, when you address the institutionalized, the other levels may take care of themselves. One more thing I want to leave you with before I give you your charge, okay? There's an important question I haven't answered yet, which is, who is the gardener? Because the gardener is the one that I gave the power to decide, the power to act, and control of resources, which are actually the elements of self-determination. Who is the gardener in our context? Well, government is a huge part of the gardener, but not the only part. Media, corporations, foundations, communities, to the extent they have self-determination, but whoever the gardener is, it is dangerous when the gardener is allied with one group. When I paint her and I have slides, I paint her red. That's why she prefers red over pink. And it's also dangerous when she's not concerned with equity. When she can look at her garden and think that her garden is beautiful, thank you, because she's not even counting the pink flowers as part of her garden. So what are we to do about the gardener? Should we make the gardener striped or polka dotted or fuchsia? Do the pink flowers have to grow or recruit their own gardener? Lots of questions that can come out of this story. I hope that you all remember both of those stories and that you discuss them tonight. I want to share one question that's come before, which is, what if the gardener that we're imagining is not the original gardener? What if that's the gardener's great-great-great-great-great-great-grandchild? Here we are. What then? Because that great-great-great-great-grandchild has grown up seeing the flowers looking uneven and may not even think that there's a problem to be solved. Public health people, I'm speaking to you right now. We have a three-part charge with this. We must make the differences in the height and vigor of the pink and red flowers a problem requiring urgent solution. And then as we seek to solve that problem, we need to make those flower boxes transparent. We need to be talking about the differences in the quality of the soil. And as we make those flower boxes transparent, we also need to make it crystal clear to everyone that the pink seed did not just go launch themselves into the poor rocky soil. So we must talk about history, and we must talk about the gardener's agency in all this, how the gardener's initial preference for red over pink set up the whole situation. We need to talk about what some people describe as cultural racism. In our setting, what is manifesting as white supremacist ideology. We must deal with that as well as with the opportunity structures. Because, thank you, because even if we were to compel the gardener today to enrich that poor rocky soil until it was as rich as the rich fertile soil, if she continues to prefer red over pink, she will continue to privilege red over pink going forward. So now I have a four-part charge for you. And not just for you guys, for everybody within hearing, okay? The first, I'm gonna call it my C's. The first part of the charge is to be courageous. Like I was courageous getting up here talking about racism at a, commencement address, right? So, be courageous, be unafraid of controversy, and tell your truth. Embrace challenge, because that's how you find out your power. Like if there's something, somebody invites you to do something, to be, to stand up in front of a crowd, and you're like, oh, I don't know if I can do it. You have to accept that challenge, because the person who invited you already knew you could do it, right? And when you live into that, then you will know something more about your power and your possibility. Being courageous means to follow your own passions and to forge your own path. Your family has gotten you this far, but you know what? This is your life, okay? And so you need to look, where do you want to go 3 years from now? You finish that and then take a 360-degree look around, and maybe you'll go like this. Maybe your path will be something like mine, which was zigzag. You are not necessarily launched on a straight line path. So being courageous also means follow your own path. So that's the first C, be courageous. The second C is be curious. Ask why. That's at the core of being a scientist, actually, to ask why. But ask, why do I see this distribution of wealth differentially in the city where I'm living? Ask, why are these people? Ask, why did those two young men sitting in the Starbucks get arrested, right? Because apparently, the young white woman who videotaped it and posted it to Twitter, people were criticizing her, saying, well, it had to be something more to the story. They had to do something else, right? No, you need to start looking at things and asking why. You need to examine history. We as a nation are ahistorical. We act as if the present were disconnected from the past and as if the current distribution of advantage and disadvantage were just a happenstance. So examine history, and whenever you're trying to solve a problem, say, how did this problem come to be this way? Being curious also means that we need to burst through our bubbles and try to experience our common humanity across town, across the nation, across the world. And finally, we need to be connecting with the stories of others. We need to be interested in the stories of others as we sit inside our restaurant, some of us. We need to believe the stories of others, and then we need to join in the stories of others. So I said, be courageous, be curious. The third is be a citizen, okay? That means care about the whole. Engage and share your perspectives. You have a life experience that's different from anybody else's. Share your perspectives. Don't just sit back on the sideline. I want you to step up and contribute your skills. Be present. Be determined. I want you to advocate not just for yourself but for others, and to stay woke. Be vigilant, right? Pay attention, and especially pay attention to the absence of. When you're sitting at a decision-making table, Look around and say, who is not here at this table who has an interest in this proceeding, right? And I could leave you just with those 3 things to be. Be courageous, be curious, be a citizen. But now I'm going to leave you with a to-do, which is to build community, especially in these times. Building community means that you are actively looking for evidence of two-sided signs, not just being complacent with your current situation. Building community means that you care about the appearance of the whole garden, not just of the pot in which you find yourselves. Building community means that you will start conversations with strangers, sitting next to you on a bus bench or in an airplane. You know, yesterday I flew in last night to do this commencement address, and the guy sitting next to me and we were sitting up here in first class, and we didn't say a word until finally he said something as we were getting off, and I said, oh, well, I'm coming to UNC too, and I'm a commencement speaker, and all of a sudden he was interested. I mean, he was like not interested, right? There's so many people that we pass that if we just start connecting by starting conversations, venture across town and stay a while. Build bridges, and here's the final thing, push against the edge of your comfort, because that is where you're going to find your growing edge. So I want to say congratulations to all of you, your family members, your friends. I hope you have some good conversations tonight. All of us are very delighted to see you in the world at this time, and I want you guys to go out, to go forth and matter. Thank you very much.
Kamara, that was a very brave and inspirational message that you gave. Thank you. And we didn't introduce Adante. He is he's co-president of our student government and a student in nutrition, and we're going to see him out there pretty soon. So thank you, Adante. And we're getting ready now to have the graduates, and I'm really excited that we're going to start seeing them walking across the stage. So on behalf of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and the Gillings School of Global Public Health, I have the honor of presenting the candidates and conferring upon each the appropriate degree, beginning with the bachelor's students. William Vizuete, Associate Professor of Environmental Sciences and Engineering, and Naya Villarreal, Program Coordinator in Research, Innovation, and Global Solutions, will read the names of each student as they reach the stage, and we're also supposed to have them appearing on the Jumbotron, right? So you can look up. It's okay to show your joy and clap for your students, and we're going to begin. Thank you.
Cyrus Adams Marty. Anam Ahmed. Taylor Alfonso. Marie Amlick. Norman Archer. Emma Astrike Davis. Lawrence Bucudio. Tobin Bader. Paige Balent. Lindsay Barden. Griffin Bell. Emily Browning. Mohit Chandy. Jalea Clark. Katrin Corey. Emily Siraki. Anna Dodson. Jordan Drake. Allison Eames. Lauren Eves. Liana Edwards. Hewet Ekuban. Leah Everest. Samantha Farley. Andrea Fitzgerald. Brandon Friedman. Kylie Fultonier. Sanjay Gadi. Bridget Gallagher. Tyler George. Franklin Gergodis. Zachary German. Shori Gotaparthi. Joseph Gung. Samuel Haddad. Michael Harley. Caitlin Hera. Courtney Hoffmeister. Emma Holcomb. Julia Hu. Kate Huang. Yasser Iftikhar. Nupur Jain. Nicholas Jennings. Lily Jones. Elaine Kearney. Bridget Kelly. Simran Kudka. Elaine King. Kara Kochek. Padam Kumar. Jack Lawton. Samuel Lee. Rachel Lemp. Michelle Liang. Dennis Lin. Kelly Liu. Sydney Lockhart. Andrea Lapazinski. Jonathan Lewick. Eric Mai. Anna Matin. Kristen McGreevy. Ukasha Mehta. Alexis Milan. Vancheska Muruganatham. Emily Nash. Violet Noe. Misbah Noor. Hemala Oza. Holly Osgun. Kevin Parham. Parth Patel. O'Shea Patel. Samip Patel. Matthew Pateta. Katie Plampton. Madison Ponder. Carolyn Pope. Runima Punjula. Sohana Rugunatham. Magalina Rainey. Sharath Rama. Saleha Rana. Carolyn Reed. Sarah Renfro. Tharuni Santhanam. Ryan Schmedding. Alex Schulte. Abhinav Sagal. Talia Shuval. Nasser Siddiqui. Rohanit Singh. Arun Sivishanmugam. Hannah Smith. Ella Smoke. Katie Starr. Lucy Sue. Brian Tanner. Ahmed Tajansi. Julia Thompson. Nicholas Toole. Madeline Volier. Leah Valine. Sarah Vossers. Madeline White. Reese Williams. Clark Williamson. Walter Winslow. Jordan Wise. Da Young Yu. Chuan Yuan. Chloe Zacher. Sarah Zolaski. Helen Zhang.
And now for the master's degree candidates. Karthik Adapa. Lauren Ehlers. Jenny Anand. Caitlin Atkins. Allison Balmas. Rayshem Busnate. Sharice Beatty. Kristen Bergman. Catherine Buckland. Manuela Bujo. Okay. Benjamin Bushman. Jake Cannon. Jillian Cowles. Aloma Chukwu. Jenna Cody. Charles Cofield. Nor Baloch. Will Bayless. Jessica Bellavo. Heather Beal. Amber Bivens. Joshua Bogner. Kayla Boley. Kendra Brott. Leslie Bristol. Pamela Brown. Elizabeth Cassidy. Megan Chambard. Caroline Chandler. Ted Cieslak. James Coleman. Natasha Collins. Shannon Connor. Julia Considine. Shayna Crowley. Deja Davis. Alexandra Dest. Emily Donovan. Elise Dorman. Adeline Dura. Stephen Eaton. Caroline Eford. Andrew Elkins. Josue Espinosa. Nicole Evans. Max Fairclough. Jared Fawcett. Michaela Freundlich. Blake Fulton. Martina Gaggle. Crystal Garcia. Gabriela Gallo. Gabriela Gardenal. Derek Gaziz. Alexandra George. Tanya Gaziani. Michelle Gonzalez. Emma Green. Amy Guo. Wenwen Guo. Carrie Heller. Allison Henry. Nicholas Hernandez. Colleen Higgins. Andrew Ho. Hanuleya Hobuman. Jillian Hobson. Anna Hoffmeyer. Manami Hongo. Lindsay Hurrell. Michelle Huang. Shanae James. Megan Gerald. Emily Jewell. Lauren Jordan. Julie Kafka. Peter Kane. Mwanza Kasambai. Aman Abraham Khatib. Jimin Kim. Renee Claris. Kathleen Knoke. Amanda Cote. Robert Kurzadlowski. Samuel Lazoff. Rainey Lee. Kirsten LaLudis. Catherine Lemasters. Brianne Lesnar. Catherine Lewandowski. E. Lee. Ao Liu. Melissa Long. Jennifer Liu. Lauren Maldonado. Jordan Massey. Monica Mazzoli. Allison McClay. Britta McCombie. Jenna McCready. Megan Meekins. Alexandra Munson. Wan Meng. Aaron Mitchell. Caitlin Moat. Omar Nawaz. Fikir Neguse. Sarah Neal. Luke Newton. Dimitri Nikitin. Precious Oboifi. Tetsu Onuma. Diana Padilla. Christina Palazzo. Claudia Pamanes Duran. Pruta Patak. Megan Peters. Brett Pinnix. Darren Pulley. Tiffany Randolph. Kristen Reed. Elizabeth Rayhack. Omar Retzk. Emma Richard. Alicia Richards. Shelby Rimler. Saja Al-Falahi. David Allen Matheson. Maya Roberson. Megan Robichaud. Claire Sadegh Zadeh. Iman Saleh. Brianna Salmon. Alexandria Sanchez. Nikhil Sanin. Johanna Schubert. Margot Shine. Francisco Schlotman. Ashley Schultz. Laura Schultz. Brittany Schwartz. Amy Shadron. Sarah Shaughnessy. Jacqueline Shea. Amari Smith. Carly Sherrod. Christina Smith. Cheyenne Stewart. Varsha Subramanyam. Leah Taraskevich. Stephanie Tepperberg. Brianna Thomas. Stephen Tu. Delaney Thomas. Alana Trumbull. Hannah Tuttle. Elisa Urbano. Candace Vans. Woo! Oh my God, it's adorable. Avni Varya. Joseph Warburton. Haley Welgus. Rebecca Wenzel. Robert White. Caitlin Williams. Nay One. Dennis Shuwan. Gar Young. Carol Sarate Ardila. Daritri Shaw. Houghton Zoe. Obi Daniel. Yiling Liu.
And now for the doctorals. Leslie Adams. David Adler. Zarad Ahmed. Gabriela Arundia. Ebony Butler. Suhe Caro. Alyssa Kozo. Tara Fatukasi. Katie Friedman. Christine Godwin. Nicole Kahn. Bristana Kaufman. Sarah Coet. Nancy Lopez Olmedo. Daniel Luckett. Nadia Nguyen. Kara Person. Elise Powell. Lori Stradley. Karen Sweetek. Rebecca Wilson. Janelle Wright. Sia Fan Shu. Joseph Zubinski.
Okay, we're going to speed this up, so let's all thank. The class of 2018. Please be seated. Congratulations. I'd like to call up Todd Jones, who's chair of the Alumni Association Advisory Board, who will welcome our newest alumni.
Dean Reimer, faculty, staff, family, friends, and members of the Gilling School of Global Public Health class of 2018. As chair of the Alumni Advisory Board, it is an honor to be here today to congratulate this class and welcome you to the Gilling School of Global Public Health Alumni Association. 25 years ago, believe it or not, I was sitting where you are sitting now. The Alumni Association is here to support all of you, help you stay connected to the school, to your fellow classmates, students, and each other. The Alumni Association believes in fostering a community for all of our students and alumni that extends beyond graduation, and to do so by providing you with career development opportunities, celebrating your accomplishments, and hosting school-wide and regional events. I look forward to having all of you as part of the association. It's a very dynamic, diverse organization. It reflects the breadth of experience across the embodiment of public health. We have 19,000 alumni floating around out there in the state, in the world, and in this country. We're here to serve you guys as you move forward with exciting and important careers in public health, and to be your bridge back to this place and the resources and the people at UNC that got you where you are today. As you make this transition, take a look around you and think not about where everyone has been and what you've done during your time at Carolina, but about those people and where they're going and how you can come back and help. Carolina Public Health alums have done amazing things at the global, national, state, and community level. So that expectation is now extended to you. I will leave you with one final word, and that is get involved. In this day and time, it is never more important than to pay attention to what's going on around you, to get and stay involved. I wish each of you much success in your public health endeavors and look forward to staying in touch with all of you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Todd. And in trying to stay on time, I didn't thank all the people who helped today, but I particularly want to thank the staff who are amazing people and do so much work behind the scenes. So graduates, you did it. You finished. You're on your way. Life is going to open up before you, and you're going to do amazing things. Before you leave, I have to give you my pieces of advice, and some of them will echo what Kamara said, and I'm going to be very quick. So I have 15 things I want to leave with you really fast. Really, it's going to be fast. So first, focus on the big things: health, equity, illness, cost, quality of life. Take risks, as she said, make mistakes, get out of your comfort zone, learn from your mistakes, and move on. 2, regardless of who is in the White House, the State House, or leads the countries where you're working, you can make a positive difference in the world. Don't get overwhelmed by the present. It passes. 3, vote. 4, stand for diversity, inclusion, and equity in your actions and your advocacy. Speak up, and don't stand by. Be good to your families, however you define them. Respect everyone. Give back to your organizations and to institutions, organizations, and causes you support. Use your voice in measured ways. Choose carefully the issues for which you advocate so that your messages really are heard. 9, your name and reputation are your personal brands. Protect them. 10, be patient about the progress of your careers. Career success rarely happens in a linear way. You can't plan it all out, and you don't want to. Luck happens. What you want to do is position yourself to take advantage of it, but not depend on it. So earlier in the week, I was in a meeting with Mark Randolph, who is one of the co-founders of Netflix. He told us that after they started the company and they were selling subscriptions, they were burning through their cash so fast that it was unsustainable. So they boarded a plane and went to Texas to offer the company for sale to Blockbuster. Blockbuster laughed at them. They left empty-handed. It could have been the end of the story, but that rejection turned out to be a gift. They didn't give up. They figured out a better model, and the rest is history. So is Blockbuster. 11, live fully in the present while looking over the horizon to see where the world is going and prepare for it. 12, build resilience. Sheryl Sandberg, who was Chief Operating Officer for Facebook, has written about this. She lost her husband in 2015. She was left with 2 young children. She was often overwhelmed with sadness and just overcome. She worked hard and painfully and really in an intentional way to develop resilience, and then wrote about it. And she said that resilience is something we can develop in our organizations, in ourselves, and in our communities. It's amazing how much capacity human beings have to work through the darkness and find light. 13, find mentors who will help and support you. Mentor others, including Gillings students. Practice good health habits, and that includes giving and receiving social support, and if you're fortunate, love. The final piece of advice I have is from Ted Kennedy, a man who had a lifelong passion to improve health care for all Americans. He said that the greatest lesson he had ever learned in life was this: if you stick with it, work at it, persevere, you have a real opportunity to achieve something. You might not reach your goal right away, but if you do your best and keep a true compass, you'll get there. And I am confident that if you persevere, you will get there too. Your futures are ahead and they're exciting. So in 1920, Thomas Wolfe was writing to his girlfriend before he left town, and he said, "I hate to leave this place." He's talking about Carolina, where he was a student. "It's mighty hard. It's the oldest of the state universities, and there's an atmosphere here that's fine and good. I saw Carolina graduates when I was home at Christmas. They were doing graduate work at Yale, Harvard, and Columbia. It would seem that they would forget the old brown buildings. We're doing better than that now, of course, but in more splendid surroundings. But it was always the same reply: there's no place on earth that can equal Carolina. That's why I hate to leave this big, fine place." Well, you can come home again, and we will look forward to hosting you whenever you come. Thank you for choosing Gillings. You give us hope for the future, and we are so proud of you. So go out into the world and leave your Tar Heel footprints all over the world, wherever your journeys take you. So now I'd like to ask you to please rise. Now, the last directions we're going to give to our new alumni are to leave the arena as quickly as possible, safely, following the staff's directions. Family members and guests, please remain seated while the graduates leave, and then you can meet up outside the front of Carmichael. And because it's so hot, I want to just give you a couple tips. You can walk back. It's about 0.7 of a mile. I checked it with my iPhone. Or take buses. If you walk, there's some uphill, so please take it slowly. Carolina livery shuttle buses will be out front. They're going to make a constant loop, and there will be room on the buses for everybody. You may have to wait about 15 minutes, so be patient. And they'll take you back to your cars afterwards. So we look forward to seeing you at the reception for food and drink and just fellowship. So thank you all. Go in peace and have fun. Thank you.
It's time to slow it down.